light.
Yeah, they better turn off.
I'm video. Jackie, I'm doing video.
Mr. Tom Lenk. So Joss, how quickly did you decide that that was a good idea?
Very slowly, very quickly. We had been having Shakespeare readings at my house for fun because we're normal, and we'd done much to do with these guys in the lead. And I was like, my wife Kai and I were both like, well, we're going to film something. It should be that. It would be great. And then we had this beautiful house that she had built. We were well, we should be here. We had everything in place. I just hadn't really found my way into the text. And then after Avengers, when we were supposed to go on vacation, when it was just in the last days of filming, she said, you know, this vacation we're going to take should be you making much ado. And I was like, woman, you are mad. And like 20 minutes later, I was like, cool, so how do we do this? And she understood, as I did not, that it was in fact not what I did instead of my vacation, but the best vacation I'd ever taken. Not that we weren't working our asses off, not that I wasn't super stressed. And there's 3 words I can say about the amount of stress that I had during shooting this, and it's neighbor's yappy dog. Wow, I contemplate murder less often than you think, but there was a little dog aside in my heart. But besides that normal stress that I love, it was just, that was a vacation. It was a chance to accomplish something wonderful, a text that I adore, a cast that I adore, a house, locations that I adore. It was a love letter. I spent 12 days writing a love letter, and somebody distributed it.
So I just want to kind of go down the line here a little bit, and for each one of you think? I got the email and I shot a quick reply like, sure, yeah, I'm in. And then deep seated panic, and didn't tell him I got that bad grade in the Shakespeare class. He's now since found out about it. And yeah, that's how it happened. It was just.
He asked me, I thought it was just going to be him filming it on his iPhone or something. I was like, oh yeah, that sounds fun.
Do you remember where we were when I asked you?
I do. We were at Neil Patrick Harris was getting his star on the Walk of Fame. Joss was speaking at it, and we were walking across the street to go to the after party. And he mentioned it as all these people were coming up to him asking for autographs, and he would sign and be like, hey, I'm doing this little thing. Do you want to be in it? Signing autographs. I'm like, what? Oh, okay. Very casual.
As it is.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't think it was a movie. I was kind of in the clip camp. That's kind of what I was thinking. And we got up and there was trucks and crew. And I was like, oh, okay, it's a movie. And then he said, there's this whole age story about, Benedick, Beatrice. He goes, now I got this whole great other D line about Leonato's age. You're going to love it. So I was in.
I met Joss being an extra on the Avengers, so...
He made you cry, right?
He made me cry. He just made me cry.
For money. Usual, it's like hit a child thing.
And then I ended up Skyping the audition for this with him. And after I did the monologue, said I want you to play hero. And I just said, I think I said, okay, with no expression on his face. I didn't digest what was happening until I said goodbye, hung up Skype, and then just started sweating and oh my gosh, and called everyone and just had all this energy that I needed to get out. I had never done Shakespeare before, so it was like internal panic, I guess, but the fact that it was in such a short period of time didn't give me the time to really full-blown panic, which was really good. So I just tried to learn my lines as quick as possible and jumped in a week and a half later.
I gotta go. Same page as everyone. I one experience the morning of the first day of shooting really sums it up. I was stopped at Starbucks at 6:30 in the morning, on the way to the first day of shooting, and the girl recognized me. She was a fan of Joss's and his work and Dollhouse. And she was like, oh, hey. And I was like, yeah, I'm actually going to his house right now. She was like, what are you doing? I was like, I guess we're making a movie. I really, until that point, really, it was still unclear.
And now we know where the leak came from.
That's tough, yeah. I would love to find that person, though, again, now. Anyway, but yeah, no, it's awesome. It's great. This is unbelievable. Never would have expected this.
What did you think that was? What's up, people that don't? I'd come from a long and spectacular summer in Albuquerque. Making another little ensemble picture. It hadn't ended up so well for me. You can't clear me because what?
such spectacular stuff to do, and I could enumerate all of the amazing things that he did with that character in that script, but all I really need to say is, so that's what it does. I was the luckiest guy in the world, and then he invited me over to dinner at his house, and I was like, this is awesome, maybe he wants to stay friends. And I went over and he told me, I said, for God's sakes, I saw what you just went through for 7 months or something, and not including prep. Where are you going to go land a beach somewhere in a coma? And he said, actually, I'm going to make a movie. Nothing. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was kind of waiting for the guys in the white suits to show up behind him. And he was serious, and he asked me to be in it, and I couldn't. And I was heartbroken because I just said yes to something else. Then they pushed that 2 weeks, which you wouldn't think would be enough time to squeeze in a movie. But I didn't really have the guts to call him back and go, you just gave me the greatest role of my life. And I'm free again in case that role is still open. If you could get rid of the person, if you could kill off the person who was going to. But then he called and said, listen, Dad, it didn't work out with the other person. I was like, yes. He said, okay, can you get over here because we're rehearsing in an hour. And you start shooting tomorrow. You're not exaggerating, by the way. And it was just shocking and terrifying. And like Nathan Fillion, I kind of had an urge to flee. But it was the most kind of wild and magical 2 weeks I've ever spent. Except for that one time.
I think I have a problem that I need to fix is that when I see Joss's name come up on my cell phone, I just start saying yes. And I'm really glad he's... I'm really glad he's never asked me an inappropriate question. But, so yeah, when he called and he said, do you want to do this? I was like, yes, without thinking. And,
Control yourself.
So yeah, that was what happened. He said, I just am walking home from Alexis's house, and he agreed to do it. So that was another huge selling point. Not that I needed to be sold. I mean, it's my dream role with trying to dream people already involved.
That's a dream we're chasing her in like some movies.
Like Jillian, Joss made me cry in the Avengers too, just because the prosthetics really burn. And I was weeping for that one day in Albuquerque. But that was the last time I had seen him before he called me at the end of the shoot. He said, I'm home, I need to talk to you. Are you around? And I said, yeah, I'm at home. He said, I'm coming over. I hung up the phone and I said to Allie, oh shit. That I must have tanked that prosthetic crazy character. He's coming to tell me, the gentleman he is, that you're cut from the Avengers, and we're going to recast her and shoot. I want you to know it from me. But he didn't. He pulled out the script of Much Ado, and I don't know if he finished the sentence before I said yes, but I do remember saying yes. And then as he walked out the door, he said, oh, and learn your lines. Which was the best advice I had, because there were, was it 12 days or 12 minutes? I don't know. It felt like something real short when we got to do it.
Those of you who think directing is like this amazing magical process, that's it. Cast these people, know your words, and point the camera at them while they're talking. If you have visual style, good on you. I haven't heard that yet.
Well, that was my next question, actually, Joss, was there anything that you wanted to do cinematically, since we're at the Cinerama Dome, with Shakespeare, that, as you sort of approached it, I know you only had 12 days to shoot it, so it wasn't like you could get a giant crane and do the one shot per day, but...
I didn't want a giant crane. I didn't want to make a giant crane movie, though. One of the things, this evolved from the Shakespeare readings we had at the house, and the most extraordinary thing about them was how not just intimate, personal they were. There was, it was not just actors but writers that I love very much, reading these roles, and they're just hearing somebody you've spent so much time with play this role, not to be like, and I will enact the role of Glorious. Just like that's how I talk. Just how you hear me talk when I'm angry, this is what I sound like. And it was really important to me to capture that intimacy and that the reality of this is just people. The thing that I missed was having some kind of rig so that I could have moved through the house more. The house is an extraordinary place. It's a wonderful location, and so much of it is about the flow, and so much of the movie is about going from seeing one thing and then coming to another. And we all the camera work is handheld, except for one shot, and we had our we had 3 moving shots. I wish that I could have explored more, just because the structure itself was so gorgeous and really informed the story that we're telling.
Well, that's for the sequel, then.
There's much to do about nothing else.
How does one wrangle trapeze artists, burlesque trapeze artists, to be in your movie?
They were not actually burlesque trapeze artists. I'm very sorry to say. They were in Cirque du Soleil together. And my wife and I had met them at a charity thing where they performed this extraordinary act, and they became friends of ours, and the trapeze was actually in our backyard for them to teach her trapeze lessons. And when I said, let's do the party in the backyard, she was like, perhaps there should be the Statham sisters doing trapeze so that it can be awesome. And I was like, I thought of that first in history.
This movie is so lovely and lighthearted, but you also embrace the darker elements of the story. Most notably, the scene where Hero is essentially scorned for having slept around, supposedly. There are some people who feel like she's being scorned because she's being revealed as not a virgin. I know you've talked about, Joss, the fact that you feel like she's being scorned because her beloved thinks that she's just been unfaithful. But for everyone involved in that scene, how was it to sort of pivot from this great, fizzy, lighthearted, sort of romantic comedy experience to something that was much heavier and darker, and emotional? I'm trying to have an emotional, like a serious question while Joss is filming me. Every day one gets directed by Joss Whedon. But yes, for everyone sort of involved, in that scene, what was it like to go through it?
If I could get through a scene where I was castigating someone for sleeping around without being annihilated by the irony police. That was my biggest task. What do you think, Jill? It's an odd scene. It's certainly the one you read and you go, wow, that's a pretty extreme reaction. It's his daughter. It's his only daughter. He loves her more than life itself, and it feels anachronistic and odd that he's kind of going, I do not wake up and die. Okay, she slept with somebody. Again, I was having trouble relating. But I guess again, to me, it felt like a little bit, it felt clear to me that it wasn't just about not being a virgin. It was about a betrayal, and it was about the humiliation, the shame. And I also felt it was one of the things that really worked a lot. It was a magical power that worked a lot, a superpower that Joss wielded, which was we didn't have time to I didn't have time, certainly, to get too into it. You had to kind of trust it and throw yourself into it. And when I see it, it doesn't bump me. It feels like someone having a bad, vain, horrible overreaction to something that feels shameful to them, and then quickly kind of walking it back and not being sure at all. And
that's my superpower? Schedule?
once in college and then seen it performed at my college, and I hadn't seen the Braun version, and that's it. But more than anything, the reputation preceded it. You know, it's a comedy. It's and maybe his best comedy, or one of his most famous comedies. And so this, I guess, in a way, I was lucky because I at first it was puzzling to me to have this scene or the character. You know, I thought the character was really challenging. My first instinct was just to make him a jerk, because otherwise, how else is it going to be funny? You know, because it's got to be funny, right? It's a comedy. But then, you know, the more I read it, and the couple weeks preceding shooting, you know, I just sort of took it as the story is what it is, and like you said, it's like it's overreaction. It's a quick reaction. It's quick to judge, but you know, he's also so quick to forgive or seek forgiveness. And so I sort of approach. I think I try and approach everything the same, just to just tell the story. And you know, there's obviously funny moments surrounding the character, but in that particular scene, it's betrayal, it's humiliation, it's this kind of dream of his shattered. And Joss, is one of his first directions to me was, I want you to play him as a temperamental jock and not the wet he normally is. And that was perfect for that scene. That he's kind of simple and gullible, and then when this whole sort of dream of his shatters, his only way to react is aggressive, you know, and violent, and you know, he's enraged. So to me, once I could forget everything that I knew about, much ado about nothing, and just focus on the sort of script in front of me, so to speak, and then it became easier. Yeah, does that make sense?
It was easy, but your reaction when we kept breaking and laughing.
I laugh all the time.
That's his, like, when he gets, like, nervous with laughter. So it was, like, sad laughter. But I think, for me, it was hard. I mean, I guess Hero is kind of the representation of the woman that she's so silent, and he doesn't give her the lines to stand up for herself, to kind of show what women dealt with. And that was hard, kind of just to go into the scene with having to mostly kind of just take it. And I think that was one of Joss's notes, was try to come back at him a little bit, lean into him a little bit, try to stand up for yourself and have her take a little bit of control, have a little bit more inner strength. And that helped, I think, and also forgiving him after. But it was the one scene that we shot for like 10 hours or so. The other scenes were very quick, and this was kind of like a long, emotional day. And I think we were breaking for lunch, and me and Clark were like, please, can we continue? Because it was just kind of there, and you just wanted to hold on to it. You felt like you accomplished a good chunk of the scene when you were done.
And while they were filming that, Nathan and I, we actually just a scene that got cut from the film, but we're in our New York apartment and we're cooking, and Rachel comes in, I'm like, you got a haircut? No! So much better with long hair. And he's cooking, and I'm tasting this pasta. It's hilarious. Look for that on the DVD. You're gonna love it. I'm so proud of it, you guys.
That scene leads into one of my absolute favorite scenes in all of film Shakespeare, which is the "If I Were a Man" speech that Amy delivers. And I just wanted to say that so she would get the applause, because I actually want to ask about the swan dive you took down the stairs. Are you okay?
I think the funniest part of that is that I'm not sure if they were just in the front room or outside, but the stunt guy who Joss hired was someone from Angel that I hadn't seen in a long time. But I came in and he was like, Mike, hey! And he was like, well, I set up this net, and we worked through the whole scene and the whole stunt, and nobody was around. They were all busy doing another shot. So when we went to the first rehearsal, nobody
I've never had the opportunity on this level to interpret somebody else's work. I've directed a couple of episodes of shows that I love, and that was my really only experience of doing something that wasn't mine. You know, it's in some ways it was an easy fallback for me because I just was like, I'm going to spend 12 days depending on the people I love to hold me up. You know, I'm going to give them an arena. I'm going to give them, you know, a mise-en-scène that makes sense to them, and they're going to go and they're going to get it done. And, you know, and that's my job. But at the same time, because I wasn't worried about the words, and was just interpreting them, I got to work on a purely visual level, even at that breakneck pace, which I don't often get to do. And so it was, besides just being comforting and a return to sort of, oh, this is why I started wanting to do this in the first place. I felt like I'm telling a story in a way that I never have. I'm understanding the challenges of a director in a way that I never have.